Because magic was the way to my joy. It wasn't circus. I would have been the wrong shape for flying on the trapeze. So there I am learning magic for a good 4 months because I can't really walk because I've got all these broken bones. And so I found that, let me say, through prayer or through having a heart's desire and then being open to what happened, then I got help on the way, which did look like an accident at the time, but it was the best thing that really could have happened.
Welcome to the Purpose Podcast. I'm Corrie and I teach and inspire others to release negative emotions like fear in order to unleash incredible personal growth. Every other week, we bring you stories of overcoming adversity from resilient individuals who have chosen to use their trauma as fuel to accomplish amazing achievements. Thanks for taking the time to join me today, and let the story begin. You're listening to the Purpose Podcast, episode number 1, The Magic of Miracles with Romany Romany. Today's interview with international female magician Romany Romany absolutely blew my mind. I've never had as fascinating and interesting a conversation with anyone like her to date, and I cannot wait to share it with you today. So Romany Romany is a professional magician who has traveled the world telling magical stories and making people laugh. She's performed for Prince Charles and has been featured in her very own BBC World Service documentary. In addition to being an internationally renowned magician and comedienne, she's also a published author. She shares much of what she's sharing with us today in her memoir, Spun into Gold, which you can find on Amazon. I'll be sure to include the link in the show notes. It was a long 40-year journey for Romany to get to her rightful place on stage. After being stage struck as a child, she set off on the dream to become a ballerina, only to later feel judged for her physique. This led to a long battle of living secretly with an eating disorder, which was her own attempt to create an ideal ballerina body. Along the way, she gave up on her dream, instead settling for a traditional life, only to have even more adversity thrown in her path. Little would she know that her path to the stage was magic, and in today's interview, Romany shares the magic of miracles and how with faith, they could take us wherever we are meant to be in life. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Romany as much as I enjoyed having it. Now it's time to let the story begin. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. I got Romany Romany here. We're so excited to have you on. You're actually on my very first podcast. So
exciting.
Welcome. So, Romany, why don't you give the audience kind of a little bit of background on childhood? And, I know you had mentioned as a young child you were stage struck. Yeah. What exactly does that mean?
It means that when I was a little girl, I used to watch all the dancing films, and I used to go to ballet class and tap classes and drama classes, and I used to dance all the time. And more than that, I had decided that I was going to be a star. I was going to be the next Barbra Streisand or the next Judy Garland, or always I wanted to work in a big theatre. I was going to be on Broadway. And this was, if you can imagine, every weekend on British television, we would watch all the MGM musicals or the Gene Kelly musicals, the Fred Astaire. So maybe we would watch 2 a weekend and all the Busby Berkeley movies. And so I just assumed that I was going to be in them. And so I'm talking extreme. I'm talking that at Christmas, when me and my other cousins were dancing around to music, in my head, I was imagining that someone would look in and see me dancing about and make me a star. I was always thinking that someone would make me a star.
How young was this starting?
I'm thinking, 4 years old.
Aw.
Because I remember saying to my mother, or later as a child, my cousin was blonde and pretty. And she said, well, yes, you weren't blonde and pretty, which I wasn't. But she said, but everyone always watched you. And this would mean that walking along, I would dance along. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, people watched me because there was this very strange child dancing about. So this was always in my thoughts. And even so, I had an Elvis Presley poster on my wall and I danced for him. And in my head, I was like, well, I could be one of your dancers. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
Aw. And then, so as you were growing up, this started very, very young for you.
Yeah.
So how did you continue that interest into high school and college and
so
from there?
So let me just say for a moment, I cannot sing, not a note.
Okay.
Cannot sing. I can dance a bit, I can act a bit, but I cannot sing. Nevertheless, I insisted that I got the singing roles in every school musical because I just insisted. And the poor teachers would probably think, oh my God, this crazy child. So my week was intense. I had 4 private lessons a week of, 3 hours in the morning on Saturday, ballet, tap and modern. And then I went to elocution lessons and drama. And then I was in the local amateur dramatic society where we put on shows. So much so that at 14, my mother wrote to the school saying, if Romany doesn't do very well in exams, it's because she's doing shows all week. You know, so
priorities.
Yeah, exactly. So my priorities were not singing. I did go to singing lessons, but rubbish. But dancing and drama, and every Saturday as well, I would go to the local, what we used to call jumble sales. This is secondhand clothing sales, and I would find costumes and I would make costumes. You know, so my whole life revolved about wanting to be an actress or a dancer or a singer,
and to be on stage.
Yeah,
right. So how did that continue for you into your young adult life?
So, well, the thing that changed it, and the thing that really sort of turned the screws, was that at 15, I got the part of Louise in Carousel, and that's a ballet part. And I've naturally got a strong, sturdy physique. You know, I love Pink is a huge heroine of mine. And if you think about, say, Pink's physique, but maybe a bit bigger, you know, like a strong, sturdy woman or a strong woman, that's my physique. I take after my father. Very healthy and strong and sturdy. That is not any good to be a ballerina. And so when I got this part for Louise as a ballet, I wanted to be thinner. So I stopped eating, or rather I started eating, you know, fruit, satsumas, lettuce, tomatoes, anything that you could eat very, very slowly, but with tiny calories. So I think I got my calories down to about 200 or 400 a day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Which meant that, of course, I got thinner. And when I did that part in Louise, yes, I've got pictures. And I'm glad I've come around this corner now, but I've spent 20 years looking at that photograph thinking, if only I could get back to that, you know, this cheekbones. And so I did this, but then the trouble was, the moment I started eating again, I put back on, in pounds, probably 28 pounds back on. So then when I went to dancing classes, I was chubby and I had bosoms, which didn't work at all. And that's where it all started going wrong, because every time I went to a dance class, there would be this reflection in the mirror that I hated of a healthy but, you know, sturdy woman. And it wasn't the ballerina figure that I so longed for.
Right. So like, to kind of summarize what you just said, it kind of made dancing almost unenjoyable for you, because what you had envisioned as a child and what you had in your head felt was a ballerina, when you looked in the mirror as you were doing it, that's not what you saw. Right.
You see, so that meant that every lesson was so painful, and I would just go home and cry, you know, and that was the awful years where it was age of Jane Fonda. So I had a Jane Fonda diary, and I would write down everything in my Jane Fonda diary and put down all the calories and get up like 2 hours before school and do the Jane Fonda workout and video and all this effort. But of course it didn't work.
And all of that was on top of all the amount of time that you're spending in the dance studio?
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, you're eating 200 calories a day?
Well, so now I've started trying to diet. So I'm now eating more, but I'm still trying to eat probably 1,000. And we know now that just doesn't work.
Right.
Right. It goes the other way, because your body thinks it's starving and attempts to hold on to the fat. So that wasn't ever going to work. But that was really all I thought about in those years.
Wow.
Which was such a tragedy, really, when you think about, you know, when you're 16 and all that happens is every time you look in the mirror, you can't bear it because you're fatter than you want to be.
Right. You know, and especially for an activity that you found so much joy in doing.
Yeah.
For it to become
and really, and it wasn't, you know, sometimes, and especially people with anorexia nervosa, it's a condition that they look in the mirror and they think that they're fat when really they're very thin. That wasn't the case for me. I wasn't very thin, you know, so, you know, I wasn't imagining that I was fatter than I was. I was looking at the right reflection, but that reflection wasn't what I needed to do what I wanted.
Right, because the body that you were given wasn't the body that you're envisioning, which is the typical ballerina body.
And even so, you know, when you audition for dance school, if you're not slim, you're not going to get in. So and let's face it, we want our dancers to look a certain shape and size. So it's almost like if you want to be an opera singer, you have to have a good voice. If you want to be a good dancer, you do need to be slim. That's how it works. If you want to be a mathematician, you need to be good at maths, in a way.
Right. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, sort of.
All right. So that's walking you through like your young adult. So I know at one point in time you had mentioned that you went into the corporate world.
Yeah.
So walk me through that transition.
So because I became, a size that wouldn't work for being a dancer, we all decided, well, in that case, I just followed the academic path and in England, we have A-levels, which are the exams that you need for university. And I went to university. And after university, I got a corporate job, which was a fast-track graduate career management thing, where they picked 20 graduates and they gave us 6 months training and a really big salary. And they got us to do sales and marketing. So there I am in London in a very smart suit with high heels and a briefcase. And I am quite enjoying myself. I've got a company car and I'm whizzing around companies selling them telephone and data systems. This was just before the internet came in. And I quite enjoyed that. However, I never gave up wanting to dance. So at the same time, I went to a salsa club and I saw people salsa dancing.
I'm a salsa dancer too.
I love salsa.
Love it. It's amazing.
Right. And suddenly there's this dance that it didn't matter whether you were fat or thin, you could do it. Right.
Yep. If you have hips, it's actually considered better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but then I started competing in the salsa dancing competitions. So now again, I want to be thin. So now I'm getting up before work and I'm cycling for 2 hours to the gym. Now I'm doing a boot camp and then I'm doing weights and then I'm going to work. And then because the whole eating disorder has gone into bulimia, I can't stay home because if I stay home, I'm going to eat. So I have to go out all the time. So now I go out to evening classes and then I go salsa dancing to 2 in the morning and then I get up at 6 and do the whole thing again.
Wow. It's a lot on your body.
Right. So it wasn't surprising after getting a really stressful job that after a while I basically had a nervous breakdown. So which came that I was in a hotel room and I tried to get out of the hotel room. But when I tried turning the door handle from the inside, my arm wouldn't move. So I'm physically fine, but my arm won't open the door. When I sit on the bed and look in the mirror, I can't see my face. I remember this. I was like thinking, I can't see my face, which all sounds really weird. And I thought, oh my God, I'm cracking up. I went back, said to my boss, I think I need a holiday. And he was like, okay, have a holiday. And I never went back because the moment I went home to my parents for this 3-week holiday, everything just went and the anxiety hit me. My arms, it was like electricity was running up and down my arms, couldn't think straight, couldn't use a telephone. I couldn't drive. I couldn't talk to anyone. So my parents took me to the doctor and they gave me beta blockers. They didn't work. So then they gave me 3 times the amount of Prozac that you're meant to have because that's what's prescribed for bulimia.
Wow.
So there I am at home. And at home, I had a small childhood room that as a child I had papered with fairies, all these fairies on the wall. I've got a small single bed. And I remember sitting on the single bed, looking at my shut door, surrounded by these fairies, thinking, I'm in a cage. I can't get out. My world has shrunk to this childhood room.
Right. You're stuck in your childhood self, which you've been trying to escape.
Right. Amazing. But this really is the turning point, because what was amazing about this experience was that up to that point, I'd been head girl at school. I'd always been the person that says yes to everything. And so I had said yes to everyone's advice. You should go to university. You should get a good job. You should get a mortgage. You should get a nice house. And I sat on the end of the bed and thought, because I thought they knew better and I didn't follow my own heart, I've arrived here. Whereas I knew better all along. I knew as a 5-year-old child that my joy was in singing and dancing and being on the stage. And I knew that. But I had thought, well, they know better. The world knows better. And in that point, in those months, I made a decision and I was like, I am going to be a performer no matter what. And I don't really give a damn what anyone says ever again. And I've continued that to this day. I'm really quite stubborn. And if I'm listening to you giving me advice, I'll be going, and I'll be really thinking, really? And I'll take your advice if it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I would have just taken your advice. Now I really take my own gut feeling.
Right. Your intuition.
My intuition.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling. So that was a huge gift.
Mm-hmm.
And what that gave me was a huge fire, because when I sort of, had months off and got it together where I could think straight, I decided that I was going to be a performer. And when my father said, well, shouldn't you get a part-time job while you're not earning any money? I said, I didn't give up a huge salary and a corporate career to have a part-time job. I am going to practice whatever I'm doing until I'm good. And when my brother said, what about your 5-year plan? Why aren't you earning any money? I thought, well, I will practice until I earn money.
Right.
I will carry on until it happens. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a fantastic thing, really, that happened,
Right. Wow. Yeah. So it was like in that moment, being in your childhood room and almost being like pushed to that edge that you're stuck, your inner being woke up.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to call the shots from now on.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Wow.
We knew best all along. Now it doesn't matter what anyone says. We know best. And
that's powerful.
And I have it still. So now I've written this book, and my mother-in-law will say, well, have you sold any yet? Or aren't you being a bit unrealistic? The world still wants to tell you what's what. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's a bestseller, and I will continue promoting it until it is. Just watch me. Mm-hmm. I've got a thing on my desk. It says, I can and I will. Watch me.
That's awesome. Great affirmation.
Right. Because we are powerful. Mm-hmm. And what we say goes. But other people don't know that. So they like to give us their advice.
Exactly, because they haven't found their own inner guide yet.
Right.
They don't know the power of it just yet.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a big turning point for you. And I know at some point in time during there, you had mentioned that you enrolled in circus school.
Right.
I believe. So walk us through that.
So basically I went to magic classes. And my magic teacher said he was going to a big festival, big street festival, and would I go with him as his magic assistant, as his partner? I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Mm-hmm. So not knowing anything, I went along with this very good performer and magician. And he's a great friend, and he taught me lots of stuff. But when we were at the festival, I met a German juggler who I completely fell in love with immediately and married. So I decided that I would do training again. So at the age of 26, I enrolled in a circus course for 2 years. And I didn't have any idea what would happen or what I would be, but I just wanted to do the training that I had missed out on as a dancer. I didn't go to stage school. I didn't have any training. Mm-hmm. I thought, okay, I'll do this. But the trouble was that 3 weeks into the course, I was cycling home on my bicycle and I got hit by a white van, by a hit-and-run driver. He was going too fast and he didn't stop. He just left me on the road full of broken bones. So I broke a couple of ribs, collarbone, wrist. But again, that meant that I couldn't go back to circus because I was really broken. Mm-hmm. But what happened was that I could sit and practice magic, because magic, you just need your fingertips. So as I got better, I sat and practiced magic. And so I have this theory that we have angels, and angels know what we want more than anything. And also, I've been praying my whole life to be in a show, maybe to be a dancer, but to be in a show. Mm-hmm. And so angels hear us. And so I have this image of my very burly angel sitting on the sofa. And when I said, this corporate job, I want sequins and feathers and spotlights. And I imagine this angel, really bored, falls off the sofa. And then he goes, really? And I'm like, yeah. And so he sets to work. And the first thing that happens, he speeds the pressure up at British Telecom. And then, he hires the white van driver.
Wow.
Right? Because magic was the way to my joy. It wasn't circus. I would have been the wrong shape for flying on the trapeze. And so there I am learning magic for a good 4 months because I can't really walk because I've got all these broken bones. And so I found that, let me say, through prayer or through having a heart's desire and then being open to what happened, then I got help on the way, which did look like an accident at the time. And it was an accident, but it was the best thing that really could have happened.
Right, because without it, you wouldn't have
Right.
discovered magic specifically as being
Yeah.
a joy, because all those years as a child, you thought your only way to get on stage was as a dancer.
Right. So, and that ship had passed and was never going to happen anyway. Again, circus wasn't the right way. You know, at the circus school, I was rubbish. It's like, I could barely climb the rope. You know, I wasn't very good. But but magic, I really liked. And you don't need to be physically anything to do magic. You can be whatever shape you want. You just have to have a vision for what you want to perform. So that's where the magic started. And
literally and figuratively.
Literally. Yeah, exactly. Except that I really believe in magic. So when I say magic, I mean in Disney, you know, like in all the stories that Disney has, when you wish upon a star and it becomes true, I really believe in that. And I find that many magicians think I'm bonkers for even saying that. And I think, what's the point of being a magician if you don't believe in magic?
Right, well, I mean, a lot of other people, I mean, I'm a student of A Course in Miracles.
Right.
And I mean, the terminology they use for that is just a miracle. So really, what's the difference between a miracle and magic? It's all the same.
Yeah. Carolyn Mace says that there are all the universal laws, such as gravity and the law of attraction and all that. And a miracle is when the laws are bent. And that is magic. Right. You know, through prayer or through desire or through grace, then you are healed or something wonderful happens or whatever. Yes. And of course the world is full of miracles and or magic. It's the same thing. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, you know, after the magic happened and you discovered your love of magic, after you healed, you know, in the hospital, where did you go from there?
Right. Well, unfortunately, my mother got a brain tumor.
Oh my goodness.
I'm laughing now, but you know, it wasn't funny at the time.
No.
And so 6 months after the accident, she got a brain tumor and she had 6 months to live. So again, it was a roller coaster of years. I called the circus space and cancelled my place. And I basically went to sit with her while she was dying, or as someone said, while she was living until her final days.
Sure.
And so I practiced more magic. And after that, I was done with England. I needed to change my life when she died. And so I went to live with a German juggler in Hamburg. However, I didn't speak German. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any money. And I got very, very depressed and very sad. And, you know, and so this eating disorder that started when I was 16 got worse.
So when you had initially discovered magic after you had the accident, did the eating disorders kind of lay off for a little bit? Did they improve that time?
Not really. Because I was at circus school, I still had to keep trying to be thin.
Okay.
And the more I kept trying to be thin, the worse the bulimia gets. What I found after looking at it over all these years, that I found that happiness is a really good measure for bulimia. So if you're really happy, it goes away for a while or gets less. And if you're unhappy, it comes back. It's like a real measure.
Sure.
So when I was in Austria performing with the magic teacher and hanging out with the new juggler, love of my life sort of thing, I was super happy and I didn't have an eating disorder. I was also slim and tanned and fit and healthy without problem. And then when I got unhappy, an eating disorder or an addiction is a coping mechanism.
Sure.
And so whatever coping mechanism you have, then you're going to use that when you get unhappy. So that was mine. So I said to the German juggler, Martin, can't we go away? Can't we go around the world and do a street tour as street performers? And he said yes. So we went around the world for 6 months doing a knife-throwing, fire juggling show.
Sounds intense.
Yeah. It was new. And we were on the streets living from what people put in our hats. And so, you know, we had to work quite hard and we had lots of adventures. But it was living really extremely. And again, I didn't have an eating disorder in that time. It went away. Because we were living so intensely and I was so happy, even though we didn't have any money. I was doing what my soul wanted to do. And so the eating disorder went on holiday for 6 months. So that was great.
Wow.
Yeah. And we came back and we got married. But then I had another epiphany in that I still wasn't doing my own show. I was doing this joint show, but my ideal was to do my own show with this beautiful magic show. And I couldn't do it in Germany. And Martin was away for the weekend and I read Clarissa Pinkola Estes' Women Who Run with the Wolves, which I highly, highly, highly recommend.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, fantastic. So she is an amazing storyteller And so she gives you all these fairy tales, and then she explains what they mean. So I was reading the story of the red shoes. And the story of the red shoes is a little girl who is very poor in the forest. She has her red shoes, which she loves. But a woman comes along, a rich woman in a golden carriage, and says, come and live with me. And so the little girl does. And they burn the little girl's red shoes, which she has made of everything she loves. And they force the little girl to sit still and not do anything. And finally, the little girl, I'm really summarizing this, but she gets her own red shoes, but they're given to her by the devil. And when she goes to church, the red shoes start to dance, and the little girl can't stop. And the little girl ends up dancing away in the red shoes. And in the end, no spoilers, but an axeman has to cut off her feet. Right? Moral of the story is we fashion what we love into our own red shoes. But there is a danger that a gilded carriage can come along, a corporate job, a very rich marriage, and we will seek safety to go into that gilded cage. And if we do, then the first chance we get to go out again, it becomes dangerous for us. And I realized that for marriage, I'd given up my dreams and was giving them up for marriage. And so when the poor husband came home, he didn't even get through the door before I said to him, I'm going back to England. You can come with me or not, but I'm going back.
Wow.
I know. But it's really important to keep your dreams at the forefront of your life. I mean, people have children and we have jobs and everything else. It's quite difficult to make your dreams your priority. And sometimes you choose not to. Some people make their children their priority. It's what you choose. But I had forgotten mine.
It's interesting, too, because I remembered you mentioning to me earlier that came to you like a voice in your head that you heard very clearly. So, again, it was your intuition speaking to you at a very deep level when you were, especially since you said you were depressed at that time, you were more or less in that box again.
Yeah, I was.
And it had to talk you out of it.
Yeah. We had a little meditation room and I'd just sit there and cry. I was so unhappy because I had given up my dreams again.
Right.
But then the big turning point for me came. So I was getting worse and worse with bulimia. It was just getting worse. And I even thought I was going to die. I remember phoning up my friend and went, I think I'm going to die. And he was like, no, you're fine. Because he didn't know what I was talking about. He didn't know because I didn't tell anybody, nobody. It was a secret between 3 people.
Wow. For all those years.
Yeah. I've only told people this April in the book. It's been a secret for 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That has to be so liberating for you when you got out now.
Have
you found that it's improved since you've gone public?
Yeah. Yes, it really has. It's amazing. And the thing is, the big fear, why I didn't tell anyone, was I thought everyone would be disgusted and hate me. And everyone's being much, much nicer to me than before.
Right, because people are empathetic, right. At the core. I mean,
of course. Yeah, if you told me you were an alcoholic or something, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'd be really,
Right, you want to help.
Right. But the big thing that helped was that I got to this point where I was getting really hopeless again. And we read something about Carolyn Myss. So lots of people will have heard of her. It's Myss. She's a huge bestseller. Written lots of books like Why People Don't Heal and How They Can. Oh, what's it called? Well, lots and lots. If you Google Carolyn Myss, she's like huge.
Check her out.
Yeah. And when I heard her name, I didn't know anything about her. But that gut reaction, I just said, we have to go. We have to go and see her. And it was, I tell the story that in the Bible, there's a story that this woman who's hemorrhaging has to go and she goes and touches Jesus's cloak because she believes that she will be healed. So there's this woman that's been hemorrhaging. She's obviously got, I don't know what's wrong with her, and this made her an outcast in society in those days. So she decides to go and touch Jesus's cloak in secret, believing that doing that will heal her. And in the story in the Bible, he says, who touched me? And the disciples go, what are you talking about? There's a big crowd. He says, somebody touched me. And then he spots a woman who's now on her knees weeping. And then he says, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. And up she goes. And in that moment, when I heard Carolyn Myss's name, I thought, if I could get close to her, she will have the secret to healing this. So we didn't have any money, but we went to Findhorn in Scotland, which is an eco community, a spiritual community. And we went to her week-long seminar. I didn't know what it was going to be about, but I thought I could ask her this question.
Mm-hmm.
There's 500 people. It wasn't a question and answer session.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So every day I was like, no, and on the final day, on the final morning, we were going to stop at lunch. And on the final coffee break, so this is Friday coffee break, we're stopping at lunch. And I thought, well, I haven't got to ask her my question. I haven't got any information on my particular issue.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay, because this week has been amazing. It's fine. It's not about me. It's been great. And I gave it up in Buddhist terms. I gave up this, I've got to find it. And I just thought, it's fine. And when we went in to this 500 big seminar, she came out with a sentence. And for some reason, I disagreed so strongly with the sentence. I can't even remember what it was. I stuck up my hand, which you didn't do. Mm-hmm. And she saw me, and she's she's very strict. She's no nonsense. She's not jolly. She said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Romany." And she's a medical intuitive. Mm-hmm. So she said, "Can I do a reading on you?" And I was like,
"Yes, please."
All right, but still. And immediately she said, "You're an alchemist, you're a magician. I bet you'll have a big entrance," which is like, huh? How does she know that, very theatrical?
Wow.
She said, "Who are your heroines?" And I said, "Sylvia Plath, Judy Garland, Edith Piaf, and Marilyn Monroe." She said, all very talented women who have been addicted and have died tragically young. And I went, "Ooh."
Wow.
And she said, "You can't swallow." And I put my hand to my throat and went, "I'm bulimic." Now this time, this was before Lady Diana admitted that she had bulimia. Nobody spoke about it. It was taboo. It totally was. No one admitted it. 500 people. I spoke to my ex-husband yesterday, and he said, "I remember that moment where the air drained out of the room because everyone went," it went completely quiet. She said, "Yeah, as I said, you can't swallow." Mm-hmm. She said, "You need to get out of black. It's killing you." And there I am sitting in black clothes, which I've been wearing for 15 years because black makes you look thinner and makes you look invisible. You just hide in black.
You blend in. Mm-hmm.
She said, "And you need to stop being the black queen." And I had been being the black queen. So the black queen, so she's all about archetypes. Mm-hmm. The queen is an archetype. And obviously you have the shadow archetype and the light archetype. Mm-hmm. And the shadow archetype of the black queen is Snow White's stepmother. It's mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of them all. And the golden queen is Glinda in The Wizard of Oz. Mm-hmm. "Hello, I shall grant your wishes." And as I walked back to my tent, we were camping, I thought, well, if I'm not the black queen, who am I? And I thought, okay, it's Glinda. I'm going to try and be as much like Glinda as I can for the rest of my life. So I went home. I gave away all my black clothes. I gave away my black costume, which was like Morticia in the Addams Family. And I got a golden ball gown for a costume. And I started trying to be like Glinda. There's another moment that changed my life completely.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it sounds like it's much more truthful to who you really are, because in dressing all black and removing yourself from attention, and as a child, wanting to be in that spotlight so badly to the point that you are now battling an eating disorder.
Yeah.
It makes sense that would be causing a lot of your pain because you're ignoring who you are.
Exactly, because I wanted to be in the spotlight. I wanted to be in the light.
Instead, you were purposely putting yourself in the dark.
Right, exactly. And so that was a huge, huge thing. And I remember coming, so I'm even wearing a pink scarf now. I remember coming out and I was a bit shocked, and I came out and it was lunchtime. And I couldn't believe that this had happened. And I had my eyes fixed on the ground because I had admitted to 500 people this shameful secret. And this old woman came up to me and she took off a pink scarf, this colour pink, from around her neck. It was beautiful and woolen. She wrapped it around my neck and she said, "This is my favourite scarf. I hope it helps you."
How sweet.
And I felt, and you know what? And I've been wearing a pink scarf around my neck from that was 20 years ago. And I've got drawfuls of this cerise pink. And it feels like this is the colour for this chakra.
Yes.
Right?
Very true. Mm-hmm.
And now to speak my truth, it's amazing. And I really believe that if we're not following our purpose and we're not being true to who we are, then the body will tell us.
Yes, it will, through the appropriate chakra.
Right. Exactly.
So with you not being able to get anything down your throat, and this is your voice, that's the chakra of your voice. It makes a lot of sense. It all comes together.
It really does. Really does. I wish the world knew about this more. It's coming in, isn't it? This information.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted to kind of start this podcast and have these kind of conversations with people, because everything you're talking about are all things that I've kind of realized in my own journey. And to your point, it's just more bringing awareness to it.
Yeah. And the more awareness you bring to it, the more layers fall away, and the easier it is to walk. It's almost like we walk along in lots of layers of clothing, and the more we shed, the freer we can walk.
Right, because you're getting to that core. I like to refer to it as, it's like you're peeling away the layers of an onion.
Right.
To get to the center.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that is who we are really. And then we layer all this stuff on the top, this protective layer. But who knew that this protective layer isn't protective at all?
No, it's not. And a lot of that layer too is who we're projecting we think we should be based on what society is telling us we should be. Instead of being true to ourselves like you were, and sticking with wanting to be on stage.
Yeah.
And figuring out how that was going to be, no matter what way it was, if it was going to be a dancer, circus performer, and then eventually a magician.
Right. Who knew?
So, very interesting. But it's part of the journey. So very, very interesting. Yeah. As we're taking this conversation, talking about chakras and stuff like that. So let's take it a little further. You had mentioned that you were around this point drawn to the law of attraction.
Right.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, actually, first of all, just before that, I had the other cosmic thing so there I am, married to a juggler. But when, I'm trying to do magic, I've made him come to England. He's German, so he hasn't got any work. So we're really struggling. We haven't got any money. And then I had a voice in my head, which I identify as God, whatever you want to call it, spirit, whatever. I heard it 3 times over 2 years. And the voice said, you have to leave Martin. Martin is the husband. And the first time I heard it, and I always say that God likes to speak to me in small spaces with water, because that's my experience. He always talks to me, I'm either in the loo, in the shower. Maybe that's when I'm concentrating. So the first time I heard it, I thought, I'm imagining it. And I dismissed it. The second time, I was really upset because it was the second time. But at the time, the husband had a tumor. And I thought, oh, he's going to die. And that's why I'm going to leave him. It won't be I won't have to actually leave him. He's going to die, which again didn't make me any happier. But that didn't happen. He got better. And then the third time, I went to a fire dance in Santa Cruz, led by my magic teacher, Jeff McBride. And this is a really amazing ceremonial dance in the forest where you dance around a fire for like 8 hours for 3 nights.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now. And again, I was very sleep deprived. No one was smoking anything. But again, I heard this voice very clearly, to leave Martin, sell your house, and go to Las Vegas.
That's very specific.
Right? It was super clear. I was alone in the forest in the dawn hours. It was super clear, crystal clear.
I've had that happen many times. So
right.
I totally
know that voice.
Talking about, it's scary because you're like, I couldn't have made that up.
No, it wasn't. It was. I like to say it was in my thoughts, but not my thought.
Right.
Right. And it's non-negotiable. Well, what it said is non-negotiable. You heard it.
Right.
And I remember thinking, I have been wishing to have my own show. On every wish and every blowing out of the birthday candle, and every time you get a dandelion seed head and you blow on it, I've wished for my show. And around the fire, I've been saying, I want my show, I want my show, I want my show. Okay, so now I've got the answer. You have to leave your husband, sell your house, and go to Las Vegas. 3 times. And again, in fairy tales, you get told something 3 times. You don't get another chance. So I sat down and I thought, I can either, carry on as I am, but if I'm serious, I have to take this advice. So I said, okay. And then I went and watched the fire dancers while weeping alone in a sleeping bag, because I knew that this was going to be terrible. I really loved the husband, and it was going to be terrible. But I also knew I had to do this. So I did it. I went home and I wrote him a note and said, I love you, but I am going to Las Vegas. Now, he's still a friend, and he phoned up the other day, and, we still don't even laugh about it because it was too painful. But we are good friends.
That's wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, because he's a really good guy. And he now has 3 children, and he's lived. And I think I set him free to follow his dreams too. But at the time, it was terrible.
Well, sometimes, especially when you really love somebody, and it's not working, it's more of a, testimonial to your love by letting them go.
Exactly.
In a way, because I'm divorced as well, and that's something that we had always felt too. It was very, very painful, but once you're actually able to let go and do your own things and live your life the way you want to, especially if your values aren't aligned, that you want the same things, it's much better for everybody involved.
Yes, it really is. But it doesn't mean to say it's not painful, but it's the right thing to do.
Definitely painful.
So I sold the house, left the husband, and went to Las Vegas. And that's really where my journey of learning magic started. That was in 2001. I found out about the law of attraction in 2006. It's crazy that they don't teach it in schools. I mean, it took me to the age of 38 before I found out about it. This is mad. So for 6 years, I didn't find out about the law of attraction. So I would always say, magic is very difficult. I never practice. Blah, 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 blah. And so I never really got anywhere because I was always telling this terrible story that I haven't got any money, magic is really difficult, and I never practice.
All the negative stuff.
Right?
So how can anything abundant be brought to you?
Right. And when I read The Secret Festival, and then I got to Abraham Hicks, and I was like, I was amazed. It really, really struck a chord. And so I completely changed my life. I started changing the story. I love magic. I find it very easy, and I love practicing, which feels like a lie when you first say it, and then I did the prosperity game, which isn't around anymore, but, this game where you pretend you have a check every morning. And so I practice that all the time. And I have been practicing that ever since, intensively. And that completely changed my life. Completely.
Wow. Well, it's interesting, though, because even when you spoke earlier about your childhood, you had that same mindset then.
Yeah.
So as a child, you were practicing it.
Yeah.
I am, a dancer. I'm going to get this part.
Right.
I got this part before you even got it, which you did.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's so interesting to find yourself come back to it.
Yeah.
20 years later.
Right. And it was such fun to create things, I have a notebook that I've had from this day. You write down in your notebook. I mean, I've got notebooks here where I write down, I have a wonderful house and a husband. Oh, I don't say husband, I say a lover. And I never said a dog because I never even thought about having a dog. But now the dog is the best thing ever. I think the angels that is an extra bonus. And I said I had this beautiful van and a beautiful house and a wonderful family and all these things I now have, and now I want lots more things. But it's such a wonderful game to play. Of life. I find it the most interesting thing.
Right, co-creating with the universe.
Absolutely. And watching it unravel and being patient and ignoring the now reality. So, for example, say with this book, right now it's only out now. I haven't done much publicity. I've only self-published it. So I'm choosing not to look at how many books have been sold because that would just discourage me. Instead, when I go running, which I don't really like, if I go running for, say, 45 minutes, I distract myself by pretending that Oprah's assistant has rung me. So I run along and I literally pick up the phone and it's Oprah's assistant and she wants me to go in to talk to Oprah. And then I imagine, well, what am I going to wear? And then I'm like, well, oh my God, they've given me business class and I've never flown business class before. And what happens when I get to New York? And so I just distract myself a lot by imagining amazing future events and feeling, as you know, the important thing, feeling the feelings of it.
Right.
So rather than going, oh my God, I'm running, I don't want to run, I want to stop, I hate running. I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to wear for Oprah?
That's awesome.
Which is much better,
Right. So you're really exercising two things at the same time.
Right. And then when things happen, let me just tell you a quick story. That the other story was I was watching YouTube and Louise Hay was on, I had it on autoplay and Louise Hay, this wonderful, right. So you can watch a video of her in the 80s when it's called the Hayride, when lots of young men had AIDS.
Yep.
And it was a thing. And the doctors were saying you're going to die. And she was teaching them about self-love and forgiveness. And it was fantastic. And there's this video that just makes you cry. So I'm there crying. And I go out to the garden. She's just passed. And I say to Louise, hey, because Abraham Hicks teaches us that all people that have passed are still watching over us, still with us. And I say to her, oh, I think your work's amazing. Thank you. And I'm just finishing my book and I'd love your help, because you're a publisher. And I said, I really would appreciate your help. But either way, I think you're great. And then I go in and literally a day later, I get an email from a friend sending me the Hay House online writing course with a competition to enter your book.
How incredible.
Right. So I do the Hay House online writing course. And then I'm chatting with a friend of mine who is not into this. He doesn't know his chakra from his elbow. He doesn't know what the law of attraction is. And when I tried to explain it, he thought I was crazy. He says, have you ever heard of Hay House? And I went, hold on. He said, what are you doing? I said, I just need a moment.
So much synchronicity in such a short amount of time.
I didn't explain to him because some people, they won't understand what you're talking about.
No.
That, things are happening all the time. And it's just, if we put ourselves in the position of allowing them.
Right.
Then it's fantastic.
I mean, it's really no different when you were a child and you wanted to be on stage. Ultimately, you did still end up being on stage. It just wasn't in the picture that you had in your head as a child.
Right.
So you still got there, just the journey to get there was different than you had anticipated.
But how interesting, I've just thought. So as a child, I had all those desires. So you imagine the whole childhood rockets of desire, as Abraham Hicks, they call them rockets of desire.
Yep.
So then I put in the resistance. I went, okay, I can't do it because I'm too fat. Okay. I did that for 20 years. And then I discovered the law of attraction. And went, and then started allowing everything to happen. And that's when I got on stage.
Right.
Right.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Yeah. And I had put myself in my own way for all those years. And when I went, it is all possible, it is happening, I'm enjoying it, this is fantastic. And most of all, concentrated on having fun.
Right.
Then it all comes in. And then, so I don't know if you know, I got a phone call last year to perform for Prince Charles.
It's incredible. Wow.
I was standing right here, the phone rings, and this voice says, could you come to the palace to perform? I didn't do anything to get that,
Right. It's not like you're marketing to the
No, I don't make any phone calls. I've still got a bit of a phone phobia.
Right.
I don't ever phone anybody. And that gig was super easy. It was like a really, really easy peasy gig.
Because you're aligned with what you should be doing.
Right. So when you are aligned, it all just falls into place, which is fantastic.
So after you got to Vegas, right? So taking a few steps back. So after you got to Vegas, when did you get your first big break?
Right.
Was that after you discovered the law of attraction? So it was 6 years into your journey there?
Yeah. So before the law of attraction, I went this way and this way and this way, trying to get some traction.
Efforting everything. Yeah.
Efforting. So much work. So much work. Not getting anywhere. So for example, yes, I got hired for 6 months in what's called a Spiegeltheater, a dance theatre in Germany. But it was the most unhappy place. Everyone was unhappy. The food was terrible. The cast was unhappy. I was unhappy. It was awful. And then I went to Berlin. That was unhappy. So I had 6 years of really, in the book it sounds quite funny, but actually at the time it wasn't funny. I was trying all these big ideas and they all didn't work. And it was really only when I found out the law of attraction that turned round. And then I got a call to go and perform in the Hollywood Magic Castle. And then I got a call to, I can't remember now, but I suddenly got all these really good jobs. And then, that's right. And then I was on Penn and Teller Fool Us, which is the magic show on TV. And from that, an agent saw me and put me on 6-star cruises, doing my magic show on 6-star cruises, which I do a lot. Not too much because I like being home. And then I got a call from the palace to work for Prince Charles. And, and I manifested a husband. That was important. Yeah. And a dog. And so now I have a really happy and healthy life. But I still really, really, really practice the law of attraction. So because of my history, I used to wake up in the morning, every morning. And my first thought was, oh, bleep, I'm too fat. That was my chronic chronic. So I wake up in the morning and I wake up and then I go, oh, I'm too fat. It's going to be another day of struggle to eat, to not eat, to exercise, to not exercise. And so therefore, again, no wonder I wasn't getting anywhere, because this was my permanent thing. So learning from Abraham Hicks that you can't think about a chronic negative problem and try and get to anywhere positive from it.
Right, because it's going to keep bringing you what you're thinking about.
Right. So as they say, you have to go general. So you have to look at something you do like. Now, we have bought an amazing mattress. It's a really expensive mattress. It is the best mattress ever. So now the one thing that you cannot argue with is that the mattress is amazing. So I just go mattress, mattress, mattress. And think about how amazing this mattress is. And then I try to extend. So now I stay in bed longer than I would have done. I don't get up immediately. I think I'm all nice and warm. The dog is on the bed. The husband is there. I'm so lucky I have a house. I'm so lucky I woke up. I'm so lucky my body works. And I spent a good half hour doing this appreciation of I'm so lucky, I'm so lucky, I'm so lucky, to get yourself into the state for the day.
Right. And it helps little by little.
Absolutely.
It's so interesting. I literally just, I think it was last week, published a blog post where I talked about this past summer, I went through a depression. My longtime partner died of suicide. So I was in a pretty rough place, but to get myself out of it, I did exactly what you were talking about, that I woke up in the morning, first thing when I opened my eyes, which was really I think I learned it from Louise Hay. Right. Actually reading one of her books. Yeah. And first thing, I'm like, I'm going to take 5 minutes in the morning. I'm going to think of 5 things I'm grateful for. At the very beginning, it was a stretch. It was very surface level. I love my bed. You know, my bed is so comfortable.
My pillows are great.
Happy. I did laundry yesterday and I don't have to do it today. Right. You know, I'm grateful for my son, like little surface things. And then as you keep doing it, you become grateful for more and more and more to kind of set your day off. Yeah. So I'll make sure I link to that post in my show notes. For this, for anybody who's listening. But yeah, definitely, I totally agree with you on that. That's one of the best ways.
I love what they say about you can't get to happy from unhappy. So, for example, if I'm not feeling great, I think I was in the gym on a ship, and I was in the gym, but I was like getting really miserable in the gym. I noticed that, I thought, okay, how can I feel a bit happier? And I thought, I know, there's a book in the gym that I want to read. I'm going to stop being in the gym and I'm going to go and read that book. And it's that thing about just making yourself a little happier, right? You know, and like today I've got lots of things to do, but my brain wasn't really working, so I thought, okay, I'm going to go and read a book by the fire for an
Sounds
hour.
Lovely.
Right? No, and normally I wouldn't let myself, but what happens is if you don't let yourself, then you just get miserable.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned that, because when you said, running before, that you were running and you don't enjoy running, I made myself run for years. I was a marathoner, and I'm awful at it. Like I'm like a 6-hour marathoner. And then finally one day I was like, what am I doing? I hate this. And I just stopped doing it. And instead I took this, stance that for as far as my fitness goes, that if I wake up in the morning and I feel like being physically active, I will be. If I don't, I won't be, and I will get more sleep, because that's my body telling me that I'm worn out and I shouldn't be physically exerting myself. And the amazing thing is, even after being a marathoner, I was a power lifter, I was all of these really intense kind of athletic sports, I was doing all that. When I finally let that go, my body, now I'm in the best shape I've ever been in by not efforting it. Right. I just let go of the expectations. I'm like, I'm going to do what my body tells me, it needs at the moment. And it's worked out so much better. So I totally feel exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. And just doing things you like. Yeah, that's the biggest message. It's find things that make you happy.
Right.
But the interesting thing is that recently I've been doing the audiobook. But the trouble is, because I've been doing the audiobook, it's made me feel really guilty, because the book is all about how I really wanted to be a magician, how I spent 25 years really working hard to be a magician. But now I feel like I want to do something else. I feel like a bit like a fraud, because now I feel that I want to share this message about how to feel better to people, because it's so important. Because
you do that through your magic. It's just that it's the next evolution of your magic.
I think so.
It's all tied together, so you're not a fraud. Definitely not a fraud. It's just the next evolution.
Yeah. But the point is, you have to go with your desire. Right. So my desire now is to, do a talk or something which explains to people how to feel better, because so many people, they go, well, you can't just feel better. It's like, well,
it's a choice. It's a conscious choice.
It's difficult, but you can feel a little bit better.
Right.
And a little bit better.
You have to take a step to attempting to feel better before you could say it's not possible at all.
Right. And you have to put practices into place, like your practice in the morning,
right.
like good nutrition and like exercise. Basic.
It's taking care of yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? When we stop taking care of ourselves, we're going to feel like crap.
Right.
In general, because we're neglecting ourselves.
Right. But this thing about really looking around for positive aspects and going, I can blink, or it's like,
I'm
that
breathing.
really, really helps. And it's so simple. But so I'm really, really, really passionate about that at the moment.
Well, I'm really excited to see where you take it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it will go the other way because, so my show is comedy, but I never, ever, ever meant to be funny, ever. I meant to have a beautiful, very impressive magic act. That's what I want. And I worked very, very hard for that. And when I tried, people just laughed. I don't know really why they laugh, but they do. And then one night I realized, I sat in my car and went, oh my God, they're laughing. They're really laughing. That's huge. That's a huge gift that I never expected.
So many comedians work so hard their whole life to achieve that on purpose.
I know. And I worked really hard on the magic and didn't really get that far.
Right.
And I didn't work hard at all on them, making them laugh. They just did. And I was a bit offended, quite frankly. I was like, I was being really serious. But so now it's that thing that, just getting people to laugh.
Right. Well, you're making people happy.
Right.
In that moment when they see you. So you're bringing them what you just said, that you want to get that message out to people how to be happy. You are doing that in your magic act. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that, I always say that God speaks to me in the showers. I'd finished a show in the street in Austria. It hadn't gone very well. People had walked off. I think my bubble machine had fallen apart. And I was in the shower in Austria and I was really depressed. And I said to God, it's so hard. And he said, don't worry about it. He said, just make my people smile.
There you go.
I went, oh, okay. There's that. It's just make people smile.
That's beautiful. And that's what you're doing.
Yeah. I'd like to do that really efficiently. But I'd like that.
So Romany, as we close out our talk today, which has been absolutely delightful, thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast today. If you could tell our listeners who are facing some kind of life challenge or adversity right now, things are really, really tough, one message that you want them to know in dealing with it, what would that message be?
I want to say that everything will come out right. So lots of my life was horrible at the time, and it comes out right in the end if you keep following your heart and you keep listening to your intuition. So even though things are hard, things will get better. And also that what we were talking about, in the short term, if you just reach for a slightly better thought, when things are so hard, if you just think, oh, well, I can make a cup of tea, or, oh, I've got windows or something. I think the thing to know is it will. What's that? Dame Julian and Norwich. And all will be well, and all will be well, and all manner of things shall be well. I think that's the thing to...
That is a perfect way to close it out. And actually, just to share with you, I had mentioned that I've heard the voice as well.
Right.
The first time I heard it, it was while I was in the middle of my divorce with my husband, and my son was, I think, 3 months old at the time. He was very, very young. I was very scared. And the voice I heard so loudly, like it was in the room, and it overcame me with emotion, was everything's going to be okay.
Right.
So it's right in line with that. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. It really is. It really is. And just to keep going back to your heart. Yeah. Yeah.
How can our listeners find you if they want to see you on social?
So the website is romanymagic.com. My Facebook page is Romany Romany. That's my personal one. And then I've got a fan page or whatever it is, Romany. And the book, which I would love everyone to read, just because it's an uplifting and funny book, and it just contains all of my heart in it. And that's Spun into Gold, which is on Amazon everywhere. Or if you're Australian, Book Depository, because they do free shipping.
Perfect. No, I'll make sure that, I'll get all those links for you. I'll include them in the show notes so that my listeners can find them.
And Instagram. Ooh, Twitter is Magic Sequin. And I think Instagram is Magic Romany, but I'll give you those links.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll link up to them in the show notes.
I'd love to hear back from everyone that's listening. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. It's been
the
such
dog
a
now. Oh, and everybody get a dog. If you haven't got a dog, get a dog. It's the best thing ever in life.
It gets you outside, gets you walking.
Yeah, and they love you.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
Thank you, Corrie. You're amazing.
Yeah, right then.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And there you have it. I don't know about you, but what inspired me most about Romany's journey is how she learned to listen to what the universe was trying to tell her and how it ultimately brought her where she always wanted to be, on stage. It really makes the case for those of us who put so much effort into everything in order to get what we want that maybe we should try taking a few steps back and going with the flow just to see what happens. I mean, hey, it can't hurt, right? If you'd like to get a hold of Romany, I went ahead and made sure to link up to her in the show notes. Also, I'd love to know what you thought about the episode. Take a screenshot or a photo of you listening to the episode along with a caption about why you loved it and post it to Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and tag me at I am Corrie Lowe, Corrielo. I'll be sharing our listeners' feedback and may feature yours. Also, as mentioned in the prior weeks in our show's pre-launch, we're trying really hard to get this show heard by as many people as possible. This is because we believe the stories shared on the Purpose podcast can help so many people facing adversity become inspired and motivated to act by using their challenges as fuel to ignite personal growth. You can help with this by leaving the show a quick review. To do so on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and find us using the search feature, and when you do, hit the review tab. Tap to go ahead and write a review at the bottom, enter your iTunes password, and then tap the number of stars to leave your rating and draft your headline and review below it. Hit send, and you've helped us get the story in front of even more people who can benefit from it. I so appreciate you taking the time to join me today and cannot wait to share even more stories of resilience with you on upcoming episodes. I hope that Romany's helps inspire you to take the initiative to find the power and purpose in your own story and not to let the story define you, but instead drive you. Until next time, don't stop, stay motivated, and always remember, tomorrow is a new day and a fresh start to the next story of your life.